What's up, Yu-Gi Tubers? This is vi3t here to talk to you about the Hero Lives deck. So I dueled on DN and my starting hand is very good. I start with Rhoda to search, of course, for Elemental Hero Stratos. So since I'm very monster light with my hand, I'm going to normal summon Stratos to search for Elemental Hero Bubbleman. The main reason for that is because I have a Future Fusion already in hand with some good back row trap protection. So I want to go all out at the start and summon a powerful Xyz monster. But first I want to use Future Fusion targeting Elemental Hero Shining. So Shining is a great target just in case I banish my monsters using Miracle Fusion, and I can get monsters back to my hand, especially since I run so few monsters in the deck. So this is a deck that's based on 0 hand traps and a lot of level 4 monsters to take out your opponent. There's some traps like Chain Disappearance to help counter your opponent's moves, because Chain Disappearance is great against windups, Inzectors, and a lot of the top decks. And also takes out Sangan. Pod Duality is in there to help me search for monsters or answers in my deck, but it's also a great card just to set. And great thing about Bubbleman with its effect is if it's the last card in my hand, I can special summon it from my hand. So since I have a Stratos on the field, I had to think about this a little bit, and I'm playing the TCG version. I'm playing the OCG version. So I'm wondering, well, not wondering, I'm going to go for the super broken level 4, rank 4 Xyz monster, Shockmaster. Shockmaster, since my opponent has a lot of cards in his hand, I'm assuming he's probably extremely trap heavy. I'm sorry, not trap heavy, monster heavy. So I actually made a bit of a mistake with this one. No, not at all. I actually detached Zephyros, and when I used Shockmaster's effect, and then called the Haunted, bring back Bubbleman, special summon Zephyros, and special summon Bubbleman from my hand. I could have dipped into my deck with Stratos instead, but that would waste a search from my deck that I don't need to search for. So this is actually the better way to go and get monsters. But a Shockmaster with a Utopia as backup is pretty powerful. And my opponent only had a Necro Gardener, so that's not going to do anything against me. I would be very afraid of a Heavy Storm because I have no back row protection against a Heavy Storm. However, I did stop all of my monsters, my opponent's monsters, through using Shockmaster. So if they use a Heavy Storm, they have nothing to follow it up with to, mess me up. So I'm in a very good position with 5 spells and traps and 2 Xyz monsters, extremely powerful Xyz monsters. My next draw was a Solemn Judgment, so I have the Duality set still. So it's a good time for me to use the Duality and see what monsters I can get to normal summon. So I took some time to think this through. And, the main point of the Hero Lives deck is to Xyz summon rank 4 monsters that have extremely powerful effects. One of those rank 4 monsters that we won't see probably for a long time because it's basically a Trishula in the form of a rank 4 Xyz monster, except with 50 more attack and an effect that can be used once each turn. So it's not as super broken, but it's still pretty broken. So with Pot of Duality, my top 3 cards are 2 Miracle Fusion and a Space Typhoon. Because of my opponent's back row, I'd rather go for the Space Typhoon since my monster presence is already strong enough. And I'm not expecting my opponent to have much of anything. I mean, Book of Moon, turns my monster face down. I can still just flip it back face up since it wasn't a manual change of the battle position. And I'm going to use Shockmaster again, targeting monster, declaring monsters to prevent my opponent from using Gores, and also using Necrogardna in the grave. So Shockmaster is extremely powerful and an awesome card. And it's a quick game because I went first, got Shockmaster and Utopia. And I also would have been able to summon the Shining. So here's a second video where I went first with the Hero Lives deck. This time I had 0 monsters in my hand, but I did have the E emergency call. If I didn't have any monsters in my hand, I would have went for using a Hero Lives to special summon Stratos from the deck, but since I don't have to waste half my life points this early in the game, I'm more it's a much better idea to just go for normal summoning Stratos and getting his effect. I grabbed Elemental Hero Neos Alias because of the Hero Blast, and now I'm using Pod Duality to grab either Space Typhoon, Bubble Man, or a Hero Lives. Since I have a Hero Lives in my hand already, and my opponent, I don't know if they have back row or not. On top of that, I have Heavy Storm, so I'm not afraid of their back row. So I grabbed the Bubble Man instead in order to get plays going next turn with summoning multiple Xyz monsters. Now if my opponent destroys my Elemental Hero Stratos, I can just use a Hero Lives next turn with normal summoning Neos Alias, then special summoning Elemental Hero Bubble Man from my hand. And that play is possible as long as I don't draw another monster card. But my opponent screws up my plays by using card destruction. So it's not actually a huge hit for me. It's a -1 from my opponent, and it allows me to, refresh my hand with 4 cards and 2 monsters in the graveyard with which I can use Miracle Fusion with. So not a big deal, but my opponent apparently is playing a Fiend deck with Yubel. So I actually remember this duel quite well because surprisingly, my opponent manages to get Yubel out and get it all the way to the Nightmare, but I take him out anyways. So as soon as possible, I'm going to use the Solemn Warning to prevent my opponent from dumping cards from their hand and deck into the graveyard. And with my Space Typhoon, I'm going to take out that back row. And this is where my opponent is able to get Yubel. So chain Call of the Haunted, Yubel. It doesn't miss timing because Space Typhoon was the last thing to activate and destroy it. However, using Elemental Hero Neos Alias with Hero Blast, I'm able to destroy the Yubel Terror Incarnate, and my opponent is able to grab the third Yubel, which is the Ultimate Nightmare. However, I have Gemini Spark and Elemental Hero Neos Alias in my hand, so I am not afraid at all of the Terror Incarnate. And right now I'm just going to destroy it and hope I don't draw a monster. I didn't, so that allows me to special summon Bubble Man from my hand, and I can use E-Emergency Call to grab another Bubble Man from my deck and special summon that one. But I want to Xyz summon first and save the emergency call for later, especially since I have a Call of the Haunted set, and my opponent has has 8,000 life points, so I'll just take it slow and cruise along a little bit as much as I can. So I didn't overextend, which is good. It allows me to make a lot more plays next turn. And since my opponent Dark Hold my Blade Armor Ninja, I have my Elemental Stratos, Hero Stratos in grave, and I can just use my Call of the Haunted to bring it back and get another monster to my hand using its effect. because Call of the Haunted is the Chainlink 1, so I don't miss timing for Elemental Hero Stratos' effect. So bring Bubble Man to hand because I plan to special summon it next turn. And E-Emergency Call will let me get another monster from the deck. Most likely I'll grab an Alias. Duality to hand, I'd rather not use that, so I'll just set it for another turn where I don't use the... So I'll set it for another turn where I don't special summon, which isn't actually very often. But as you'll notice, there's only 2 Alias, 2 Bubble Man, 1 Stratos, and 2 Zephyros, and that's about it. So my opponent rage quits there. So the Hero Lives is a very fast and powerful deck. The only problem with it is that it doesn't run hand traps, which leaves you completely defenseless against wind up first turn loops. But you know, it's a risk that you should be willing to take. The only thing is it's not as powerful in the TCG because the deck is missing very powerful rank 4 Xyz monsters like Evil Swarm Ouroboros. This is vi3t giving you a brief view of a Hero Lives decks, and I'm going to come back with you with times where I lost with the deck.